Well, millions of Ukrainians are still struggling to get food and basic supplies for their families. Aid organizations on the ground are traveling hundreds of miles to deliver supplies to those in need, and their drive often dangerous because their trucks are prime targets for attacks and shelling. NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber joins us now from Bucha, Ukraine, with more on their mission. Good morning, Ellison.
Hey, Vicki, a lot of neighborhoods around the Kyiv area look like this. Very little of key infrastructure items left. This right here, you see the green? That is a shopping cart. This used to be a supermarket. It is gone. In other areas, it's impossible to get aid in because there's so much shelling. Russia, in this war, they have a history of not honoring humanitarian corridors, so-called green corridors. But in spite of that, aid groups like Convoy of Hope are still making the dangerous trek to neighborhoods like this and beyond, trying to get aid to people who need it the most. We had the chance to follow them. Their journey started in Poland.
117 days in, each day brings new images of war upending Ukrainians' everyday lives. Impact that extends beyond the bombs and bloodshed. The World Food Program says 1 in 3 Ukrainian households are now food insecure. NGOs like Convoy of Hope are working tirelessly to ease that burden, but procuring and delivering humanitarian aid to a war-torn country is never easy. For Christian Rodriguez and his team, meal delivery in Bucha starts 355 miles away in Poland. So does our plan to follow a box of a Ukrainian staple, buckwheat.
We get about 10 truckloads of food every single week.
We watched a tractor trailer begin to make the long journey east.
So we try to go as far east as we can, depending on safety.
How risky is the journey to get aid to eastern Ukraine?
Very risky.
A drive full of checkpoints we can't film, on a route we can't show you, because doing so could make a risky drive deadly.
Have you had any instances where a truck is trying to get in somewhere and they've been attacked, shelled, or anything along those lines?
Yes, and that's where we get requests for things like bulletproof vests, for helmets, just for the drivers, just to be safe.
Who are the drivers that you're working with?
Ukrainian people.
This trip is a success. Volunteers unload pallet after pallet and separate the aid into bags, each one with a box of buckwheat.
Poor people, they no job, no money.
Smaller vans will take the aid onto harder-to-reach communities ravaged by war. As volunteers transfer the final bags, they send it off with a song. Over 600 people showed up for this distribution. There's only enough food for half. We saw the desperation, the fear, and frustration when the aid ran out, and the relief of those who got it.
My young children don't understand what's happening, but my oldest son knows that it's very difficult to get the food we used to be able to eat all the time.
With 3 growing children, this food won't last long.
A lot of people say me, we are help a lot. Yes, you help, but war not stop. We need help.
Ellison, these groups are obviously doing God's work. What are they saying about how long they can keep up this support?
Well, so this particular group told us they have plans right now to be here for at least another 2 years, but they think there's the potential that they need to go and stay well beyond that, in addition to working in other countries where there are other humanitarian crises, other natural disasters. One of the things to just keep in mind as we're talking about humanitarian aid in Ukraine is that you have some places where even humanitarian groups are not allowed to access. You look at a place like Mariupol, it's controlled by Russian forces now. The Ukrainian mayor says there are still 100,000 people there, and they have very limited access to drinking water. He says they're having to wait in line to get water once a week, oftentimes waiting up to 8 hours just to get water. So you have aid groups like this that are desperate to bring whatever they can into those communities, but there simply aren't many options to get inside. Vicki?